Hello, my name is Mary Brower, and I'm from an organic farm in northern Michigan called Blue Stem Farm. And for 8 years now, whenever you've asked me to talk at a Lions Club or Rotary Club or teacher wellness function, I've given a talk. And I wanted to give this talk to you now as well. It's about why organic farms are important, and I have a list of printed placards that I'm going to break out for this. So we're here in our hoop house on a cloudy evening, and yeah, I want to talk to you about why when Aaron and I could have done anything else in the world, we chose to be organic farmers. It is the most challenging, important, fascinating, fun, beautiful, life sustaining, real activity that we can think of. But that's just why it matters to us personally. There are lots of other ways to look at this that are broader and more socially relevant than just how it impacts a couple of people's interests and fascinations. Um, One important thing to start with is the very definition of agriculture itself gets at part of the complexity of what farming is. The word roots, agra and culture, have to do with two opposed ideas. Agra has to do with wildness and savageness, and culture pertains to things that humans have influence over. Things that innovation and technology and human insight can affect. And that really just captures it. Farming is both things that are way too big for people to control and govern, and farming also has everything to do with human effort. Take, for example, all the domesticated plants and animals that you can think of at a farm. Um, in the same way that a chicken wouldn't be able to survive in the wild, in the woods of northern Michigan, neither would lettuce. Neither one would exist if not for generations and generations of human input, and also the care um, the care that human beings give to these crops and animals to support their lives. So it's a bi-directional influence. We raise the crops and the crops raise us back. So what we're gonna do in this conversation is go down 5 important big topics and talk about how local organic farms have any bearing on these big ideas. This talk, when I give it in person with you, um, is about a 30-minute long conversation, and I don't probably a little bit less than that without people to ask questions. So first of all, we're going to start with public health. There are quotes interspersed throughout, and if we were lucky enough to be together, I would pick one of you to read the quotes out loud, but I guess I'll nominate myself. This is a quote by the author Michael Pollan. Eat all the junk food you want as long as you cook it yourself. Now, the idea surrounding this quote is that if every time you wanted to eat a French fry, you had to get the potato, peel the potato, cut the potato, get the oil to the right temperature, clean up the oil after you're done, dispose of the oil, you would probably eat French fries a lot less. Most Americans probably would eat French fries a lot less, and that would probably be about right. Maybe we should only eat as many French fries as we go and take the trouble to prepare. Huh? We're gonna go dark and then we're gonna go light, okay? So a lot of these slides are many years old. Like I was saying, I've been giving this talk for a long time and they're just not updated. Um, if if you look at this, it's the top 10 causes of death in the United States from about 10 years ago. And I bet without the labels, you can guess what some of these are, right? Cancer, heart disease. There a lot of the bad things, a lot of the bad diseases out there, not all of them. And sometimes healthy people get sick, and that has nothing to do with whatever they did in their lives. But there are a lot of lifestyle choices that can make a positive difference in how healthy we are over our lives. And by eating more fruits and vegetables, that's along with exercise, that's one of the things that we can do to lead healthier lives as we age. Now, the good news is that eating more fruits and vegetables doesn't have to mean living on a diet of sticks and rocks. And because I've always thought way too much about food, I make it my job to share cooking ideas for in-season foods, whole foods, with people who are our customers. And this is a chicken salad on little lettuce boats, and pasture-raised animal protein is lower in saturated fat and cholesterol than the kind that you can buy from a factory farm at the supermarket. So just the choice of selecting the conditions that the meat that you eat was raised can make a positive impact on long-term health. Antioxidants are something that have entered the public awareness, I'd say, in the past couple decades. You can think of things like pomegranate juice and blueberries for this being healthy, antioxidant-rich foods. But the other good news is that a lot of things that don't have their own specific dedicated marketing campaigns are really high in antioxidants. And this is a humble kind of purple daikon radish that we grow, and it's high in anthocyanins. Those are the purple pigments that make blueberries and pomegranates so high in antioxidants. So sometimes normal food that is available and inexpensive can be high in nutrients for people. Eggs, just like chicken and pork, can be lower in saturated fats and cholesterol and higher in vitamins like vitamin A, if they're raised outdoors, just because of the things that the animals are eating. And sometimes it's things that we do to vegetables to make them healthier for us. This is a kind of lacto-fermented ginger carrot pickle that I make, and you just blend it in the blender along with some olive oil, and it makes the most delicious salad dressing I've ever had. Stuck together. Okay, so that was the part about public health, and now we're reaching the area of food security. Now, because in northern Michigan we live at the very top of the supply chain, all it really takes for our supplies to get limited is a trucking strike or a really bad ice storm or something like the health crisis that we're going through as a country right now. And again, the good news is that there are things that we can do to help ourselves out in this situation. One way of looking at food security is the amount of the year that we're able to produce food for ourselves in northern Michigan. Of course, a lot of people grow their own gardens in summertime, and a lot of farmers grow food for summer. But I want to be able to eat in winter and spring too. And something that our farm does is provide subscription boxes throughout the year. So there's a summer one and also a winter one. And that's something that's just really important to us and who we are as a farm. I mentioned that we raise animals too, and it's not just us. There are lots of great local farms that ethically raise animal protein too. But that's just another way that we can provide rounded diets for people in our community. In addition to the types of food that we raise and local availability of those foods, another piece of food security is food access. So if you can't afford to buy food, you're not food secure. This chart shows what it's a map of food insecurity in the counties of Michigan. Again, this was about 10 years ago. This is from 2013. So the darker your county is, the more families with kids are food insecure, meaning that they just don't have enough food. Even considering things like food stamps and WIC, somewhere between 20 and 30% of the counties in northern Michigan were demonstrating food insecurity for families with kids. Something that we do in response to that, and that other farms do as well, is collect donations to turn around to families in need. Now, an interesting, terrible thing about the health crisis that we're in right now is that a lot of the people who we've seen come through the doors of our food donations program tend to be people who are now frontline essential workers. So people who work at grocery stores, people who deliver packages for us, even people like farmers and health providers, nurses, and people who look after older folks. So those people could really use support in a time like this to help eat healthier fruits and vegetables. We're about halfway through if you're counting. This set of slides has to do with how local organic farms support communities. It's quote time. We need to look at front porches as crime-fighting tools, see picnics as public health efforts, and see choral groups as occasions for democracy. Sometimes community can be as simple as people taking part in something together. This shows a hayride where a little boy and his family were just looking at the chickens and seeing the farm. But community has lots of other community means lots of other things too. Obviously, communities look out for people, look out for old people, look out for people who don't have enough money to buy groceries. And communities also just take care of caring about each other, of asking about each other. Communities also teach each other things. This is a sauerkraut making workshop that we did a few years back, and we all just took a bunch of cabbage and learned some skills that put up some food for wintertime. A lot of local organic farms will also do things like public events, and we've hosted yoga in the barn. I think that's chicken pose, right? A barn concert. Now, probably the thing that is actually at the top of most people's minds when they think about organic farms is about the environmental impact of organic farming. Most people will know, if you ask them, that organic farms don't spray pesticides or use herbicides, but there's actually a lot more to it than that. Organic farming pertains to some holistic practices as well, things that you do in addition to the things that you don't do. This is a quote from Joel Salatin. "You as food buyer have the distinct privilege of proactively participating in shaping the world your children will inherit." So there are some members of my family planting some chard, I believe. Okay, we're standing now in a hoop house, which is a passive solar greenhouse, basically. And if you know my farm, I'm in the one that's out in the middle of the field. There's M32 there. And if you were looking at this picture, it would be over to the side that way. So what we're seeing here in this image is, I'm going to zoom in. Down here you have a cover crop of rye. Then there's a narrow band of actively producing vegetable rows. And then there's a pasture for pigs. And two important practices for organic farming are crop rotation and cover cropping. So this rye is not going to be turned into grain that people or animals eat. It's just a cover crop. And then it'll be tilled back in to nourish the soil. And crop rotation means that you don't always grow one crop where it was before. You rotate it with other things. Rotating animals into this system also serves to support the health of the soil and reduce pests over time. I wonder if you can see this out there in the internet. That says live ladybugs, perishable, keep out of sun and heat. So if you happen to have an aphid infestation on your farm, you can choose to spray them and kill them, which works, or you can choose to purchase a hilarious box of ladybugs on the internet and sprinkle them out on your farm, because ladybug larvae are classic voracious killers of aphids, and that also really works. In addition to that being funny, cute, and whimsical, it's also a way to avoid damaging the health of your pollinators, because if you choose to spray a broad spectrum pesticide to kill the aphids, then you're also going to damage the beneficial insects that live on your farm. Just like if you get a sickness and you decide to take an antibiotic, sometimes you need to, and thank goodness for modern medicine, but sometimes you do it when you don't really need to, and you end up messing up your stomach for a long time afterwards. So that's because you're killing everything that lives inside your gut. You don't want to do that if you don't need to, and you also don't want to spray pesticides and herbicides, and usually you don't actually need to. We're reaching the end. Can you tell? Here we are. The last set of slides is about how local organic farms support the economy in a place. And this is my little daughter from about 5 years ago, and me in the picture of us in a local, in Grain Train, the local grocery store. Money spent on local produce at farmers markets and locally owned shops stays in the community, cycling through to create jobs, raise incomes, and support farmers. So obviously, if you choose to buy beets from my farm, you're paying our family a salary. But in addition to that, there are many other secondary benefits. They're called a multiplier effect. So if you pay me for the beets and my family has income, we also plow a bunch of our farm's income back into supporting the infrastructure of the farm and purchasing supplies. These placards were printed at a local print shop. The farm equipment that we have is bought at local auctions. We pay employees. When we sell eggs at Grain Train, they keep a portion of the profit of those eggs, and they use that to pay their employees as well. So many sectors of the economy benefit from the purchases of local businesses in local areas. Now, for a little bit of context, the next two slides are the last two, and we're going to talk about food costs overall. I know that our food is more expensive than the food you can buy at a box store. Sometimes it's not that much more expensive, and sometimes we're comparable with what you can find at a big store. But I get it. I understand that cost is a factor. For context, this is the United States, and the percentage of people's take-home pay that was spent on groceries over the past 100 years or so. And you can see the obvious trajectory is down. People used to spend a lot more of their income on food than they do today. Now this slide shows the world today. And if you live in a country that is darker green, then people in your country are spending a larger proportion of their income on groceries. Now, if you live in North America, you can see that that's the lightest green of all. And in North America, in 2009, they were saying that in Canada, they spent 9.1% of their income on groceries, and in the US, it's just shy of 7%. So I'm old enough to remember a time before paying for you know, the internet and cell phones, and those things are totally essential to me too now. But I would like to make a point about how things that we spend money today on things that have become essential, but that 20 years ago nobody had to pay for, and I think that groceries and good groceries, healthy food, are worth a lot of money. Should be worth a lot of money at the end of the day for everybody's health and well-being, and for all these reasons that I've listed above. So if you have any questions for me, I'll respond in the comments. Thanks so much for your time today, and I hope you have a happy Earth Day.